There exists a prayer so powerful, so ancient, so saturated with divine abundance, that when spoken with true faith and understanding, it has the supernatural ability to break the chains of poverty, unlock the floodgates of provision, and position you directly in the flow of heaven's limitless resources. But here is what most people never discover. The power is not merely in the words themselves, but in the spiritual frequency you activate when you align your soul with the eternal truth embedded within them. Before I reveal this sacred mystery that has transformed the financial destiny of countless souls throughout history, I want to invite you to subscribe to Jewish Wisdom. By joining this community, you are not simply clicking a button. You are making a declaration that you are ready to receive ancient truths that can radically shift every area of your life, especially your relationship with provision and prosperity. Right now, write this declaration in the comments. I am a vessel for divine abundance. Let me take you back thousands of years to a time when a shepherd boy sat alone in the wilderness, watching over his father's flock under the vast canopy of stars. This was no ordinary shepherd. This young man had already been secretly anointed as the future king of Israel. Yet he spent his nights in solitude, his days facing lions and bears, his hours immersed in the presence of the Eternal One. His name was David, and in those quiet moments of communion with the divine, he received revelations that would echo through eternity. Mysteries about the nature of God as provider, protector, and the source of all abundance. The insights he gained in that wilderness would later become the most recited, most beloved, most powerful prayers ever written. Words that have sustained nations, comforted the afflicted, and yes, opened the windows of heaven for those who truly understand what they are speaking. But here is what the religious systems have hidden from you. What has been buried beneath centuries of ritual without revelation, tradition without transformation. These prayers were never meant to be merely recited. They were designed to be activated. They are not just beautiful poetry to comfort you in difficult times. They are spiritual technologies, divine frequencies, kingdom keys that unlock specific realms of blessing when engaged with proper understanding and faith. The rabbis who became wealthy, the Jewish families who prospered even in the midst of persecution, the businessmen who seemed to have a supernatural advantage in the marketplace. They knew something that the average person missed entirely. They understood that certain prayers, when prayed with specific intention and consistency, create an energetic alignment between your soul and the source of all provision. They discovered that the spiritual realm operates on principles just as precise as the physical laws of nature, and that abundance is not random, not luck, not merely the result of hard work, but the inevitable outcome of positioning yourself correctly in relation to the divine flow. Think about this carefully. Throughout history, the Jewish people have represented less than 1% of the world's population. Yet they have produced a disproportionate number of the world's wealthiest individuals, most successful entrepreneurs, and most influential financial minds. This is not coincidence. This is not genetics. This is not merely cultural emphasis on education. This is the result of a people who, despite being scattered, persecuted, and stripped of their possessions repeatedly throughout history, carried within their spiritual DNA an understanding of heavenly economics that transcends earthly circumstances. They knew that there is a prayer, a specific arrangement of words given by divine inspiration, that when spoken daily with faith and understanding, literally reprograms your consciousness, shifts your spiritual frequency, and positions you to receive what has always been yours by covenant, but blocked by ignorance, doubt, and misalignment. This prayer does not manipulate God into giving you something He was withholding. Rather, it aligns you with what He has already prepared, opens your eyes to see opportunities that were always present, and removes the internal barriers that have kept you in cycles of lack, despite your hard work and good intentions. But I must warn you, what I am about to share with you is not a magic formula. It is not a spiritual shortcut that bypasses the principles of wisdom, diligence, and stewardship. The revelation you are about to receive will only work for those who are willing to engage it with sincerity, consistency, and a genuine desire to honor God with their prosperity. The casual observer will read these words and miss everything. The skeptic will dismiss it as religious superstition. But the hungry soul, the one who has been crying out for breakthrough, the one who knows there must be more than this endless cycle of barely enough, you are the one for whom this message was prepared. In the ancient world, shepherds were considered the lowest class of society. They were outcasts, separated from the community, deemed unclean and unworthy of mingling with respectable people. Yet it was in this place of isolation and humility that David, the shepherd king, received some of the most profound revelations about the nature of God that have ever been given to humanity. He understood something that would later be confirmed by the teachings of Yeshua, that the kingdom of heaven operates on an inverted economy where the last become first, where the humble are exalted, where those who seem to have nothing are actually positioned to receive everything. Now we arrive at the heart of this mystery, the unveiling of what has been concealed within the sacred texts, waiting for those with spiritual eyes to perceive it. The prayer I am speaking of is one that you have likely heard before, perhaps even recited yourself in moments of comfort or crisis. But I would venture to say that you have never truly understood its power, never grasped the depth of the covenant promises encoded within its verses, never activated the supernatural provision that flows from its proper engagement. In the book of Psalms, positioned with divine intention as the 23rd Psalm, David pens words that would become the most famous prayer in human history. But here is what most miss. This is not merely a comforting poem about God's pastoral care. This is a legal declaration, a prophetic proclamation, a spiritual contract that, when entered into with faith and consistency, obligates heaven itself to manifest provision in your life according to the covenant promises embedded within it. The psalm opens with a declaration that establishes the entire foundation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In Hebrew, these words carry even deeper meaning. Adonai Roi, Lo Exer. The Eternal One is my shepherd. Therefore lack is impossible in my life. Notice that David does not say, I hope I will not want, or maybe I will not want, or I am trying not to want. He declares with absolute certainty, as a statement of spiritual fact, that lack is incompatible with the reality of God as his shepherd. The ancient rabbis understood that this opening phrase is not wishful thinking, but a description of spiritual law. When the Infinite One assumes the role of shepherd over your life, scarcity becomes a logical impossibility. A good shepherd ensures that his flock has everything necessary, not just for survival, but for thriving. The Jewish sages taught that this verse establishes what they called the principle of divine sufficiency, the understanding that when you are rightly positioned under God's care, he assumes full responsibility for your provision. But here is the key that unlocks everything. Notice that David says, my shepherd, not a shepherd or the shepherd. This is personal, intimate, covenantal. He is not speaking theoretically about God's ability to provide for humanity in general. He is making a personal claim, declaring his individual relationship with the source of all provision. This is the first secret the wealthy rabbis understood. Provision flows not from a distant deity, but from intimate relationship with a personal God, who has bound himself by covenant to care for those who trust him completely. The psalm continues with imagery that the surface reader sees as pastoral poetry, but the spiritually initiated recognize as a blueprint for supernatural abundance. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Each phrase is a revelation. Green pastures represent not merely sufficient provision, but abundant provision, more than enough, excess, overflow. The Hebrew word for green, indicates fresh, new growth, spring grass, the most nutritious and desirable food for sheep. God does not lead you to barren fields, where you must scrape and struggle for barely enough to survive. He positions you in places of abundant provision, where resources are fresh, plentiful, and continually renewing. This is a prophetic picture of what happens when you daily align yourself with this prayer. You begin to find yourself in the right place at the right time, positioned where opportunities are fresh and abundant, where provision flows naturally and continuously. The still waters represent peace, rest, the absence of striving and anxiety. Sheep will not drink from turbulent, rushing waters because it frightens them and they sense danger. A good shepherd leads them to calm, peaceful places where they can drink deeply without fear. This reveals another dimension of divine provision. It comes with peace, not with stress, anxiety, or the frantic striving that characterizes those who depend on their own efforts alone. When you engage this psalm daily with true understanding, you activate what the Kabbalists call the principle of minutiae, divine rest. You begin to move from a place of anxious striving into a place of peaceful receiving. Your work becomes more effective not because you are working harder, but because you are working from rest, from alignment, from the overflow of divine partnership rather than the exhaustion of self-effort alone. He restores my soul speaks to the renewal of your inner life, your perspective, your faith, your vision. The Hebrew word for restore, shwab, means to turn back, to return to original state. God returns your soul to its original design. The way you were meant to think about provision, the way you were created to receive abundance. So many people are trapped in poverty consciousness, not because of their circumstances, but because their soul has been damaged. by disappointment, wounded by past failures, conditioned by generations of lack. Now, we come to the practical application, the bridge between ancient revelation and your current reality. Understanding this psalm intellectually changes nothing. Admiring its beauty transforms nothing. The power is released only through consistent, faith-filled engagement. This is where most people fail. They hear the truth, they feel inspired, they might even pray it once or twice, but they never develop the daily discipline that actually shifts their spiritual atmosphere and opens the gates of provision. Write this declaration in the comments. Every day I speak abundance over my life. Let me be very direct with you. If you want to see the financial breakthrough that this psalm promises, you must commit to praying it every single day. But not as a religious ritual, not as empty repetition, not as a desperate plea, but as a declaration of truth, as a realignment of your consciousness, as an activation of covenant promises that already belong to you. The millionaire rabbis who discovered this secret did not pray it once and expect instant results. They made it a daily practice, a spiritual discipline, a non-negotiable part of their communion with the divine. Here is how you engage Psalm 23 for financial breakthrough. First, you must pray it slowly, meditatively, allowing each phrase to sink deep into your consciousness. Do not rush through it. Let the words reshape your thinking, challenge your doubts, and build your faith. When you say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," pause and let that truth settle into your spirit. Speak it until you believe it, until doubt yields to faith, until anxiety gives way to peace. Second, you must personalize it. This is not a generic prayer about humanity in general. This is your personal declaration. Say it as David said it. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul." Make it intimate, make it personal, make it real. Third, you must visualize the reality it describes. As you speak of green pastures, see yourself positioned in places of abundant provision. As you mention still waters, feel the peace of God settling over your financial situation. As you declare restoration, sense your soul being renewed in faith and expectation. The ancient mystics understood that words combined with focused intention create reality. You are not just reciting a prayer. You are calling things that are not as though they already are, which is the very mechanism of faith described throughout Scripture. And if you are enjoying this revelation, if this content is opening your eyes to truths you have never seen before, I want to ask you to support this ministry so we can continue bringing you these ancient secrets that have the power to transform your life. Right below this video, you will find a button that says thank you. If you are able to contribute, even a small amount, we would be deeply grateful. Your support allows us to continue this sacred work of unveiling the hidden wisdom that changes lives. Fourth, you must combine this prayer with action. Faith without works is dead, as James reminds us. The rabbis taught that prayer opens the windows of heaven, but you must position yourself to receive what flows through those windows. This means you continue to work diligently, steward wisely, give generously, and pursue opportunities with excellence. The difference is that now your actions are empowered by divine partnership rather than limited by human effort alone. Fifth, you must maintain consistency even when you do not see immediate results. This is where most people abandon the practice. They pray for a week, maybe a month, and when their bank account has not magically multiplied, they conclude it does not work. But the spiritual realm operates on different timing than the natural realm. Seeds planted today produce harvest in due season, not instantly. The wealthy rabbis understood this principle of spiritual agriculture. They sowed the seed of daily prayer and declaration. They watered it with faith and obedience. And they waited with patient expectation for the harvest that they knew would inevitably come. Think about what happens when you pray this psalm daily for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Your consciousness begins to shift. Your expectations begin to rise. Your faith begins to strengthen. You start to notice opportunities you previously overlooked. You make decisions from wisdom rather than fear. You attract favor because you are walking in a different spiritual frequency. You position yourself for breakthrough because you are aligned with the source of all provision. The Talmud teaches that God matches our consistency with His faithfulness. When we show up daily, He shows up powerfully. When we remain faithful in the small discipline of prayer, He releases the large reward of provision. This is not manipulation. This is covenant partnership. This is how the kingdom of heaven operates. Let me tell you about a man I encountered years ago. a businessman who had built multiple successful enterprises, but found himself in a season of devastating financial collapse. Everything he had worked for seemed to be crumbling. His debts were mounting, his creditors were circling. His family was frightened, and his own faith was being tested in ways he had never experienced. In his desperation, he reached out to a rabbi who was known in the community not for his religious position, but for his extraordinary wisdom in both spiritual and financial matters. This rabbi did not give him a business plan. He did not offer him a loan. He did not connect him with investors. Instead, he gave him a single instruction that seemed almost absurd in light of the crisis. Pray Psalm 23 every morning before you do anything else, and every evening before you sleep. Do this for 90 days without missing a single day, and watch what God does. The businessman was skeptical. He had been hoping for practical advice, strategic guidance, connections that could help him restructure his debts or find new capital. But something in the rabbi's eyes, a certainty that transcended circumstances, convinced him to try. So he began, every morning, before checking his phone, before reading the news, before anxiety could grip his heart. He would speak those ancient words, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." At first, nothing changed in his external circumstances. The bills still came. The pressure still mounted. But something was shifting internally. He noticed that his anxiety was decreasing. His sleep was improving. His mind was becoming clearer. He started making decisions from a place of peace rather than panic. And then, around the 30-day mark, something remarkable happened. An old business contact reached out with an opportunity he had not seen coming. It was not the solution to all his problems, but it was a beginning, a crack of light in what had seemed like total darkness. He continued the practice. Every morning, every evening, without fail. Around day 60, another breakthrough came. A debt that he thought was impossible to resolve suddenly found resolution through an unexpected source. By day 90, his entire financial situation had not just stabilized, but had actually improved beyond where it had been before the crisis began. But more than the external transformation, something had happened in his soul. He had discovered that God really is a shepherd who provides, that lack is not the final word, that there is a spiritual dimension to prosperity that transcends economic systems and market conditions. When he returned to the rabbi with gratitude and amazement, the older man simply smiled and said, "You did not manipulate God into blessing you. You aligned yourself with a reality that was always true, but that you could not access while you were trapped in fear and self-reliance." The psalm did not change God's willingness to provide for you. It changed your ability to receive what he was already offering. This is the mystery that I want you to grasp with everything in you. Provision is not something you extract from a reluctant deity through the right combination of words. Provision is flowing constantly from the heart of a generous Father. But most people cannot receive it because they are not positioned correctly, not aligned spiritually, not tuned to the right frequency. Psalm 23, prayed daily with faith and understanding, tunes your spirit to the frequency of divine abundance. Tell me in the comments, what area of financial lack are you believing God to transform through this revelation? Be specific, write it down, declare it. There is power in articulating your faith, in making your expectation known, in partnering with this community of believers who are all pressing into the same promises. The prophet Isaiah declared, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's economy operates on principles that seem illogical to natural thinking. The world says you must strive, compete, hoard, and protect. The kingdom says you must rest, trust, give, and receive. The world says provision is scarce and you must fight for your share. The kingdom says provision is abundant and flows to those who position themselves correctly. We have journeyed together through ancient revelation, through practical application, through testimony of transformation, and now I want to seal this truth into your spirit with a final word that will anchor everything we have explored. You are not learning these things by accident. You are not watching this message by coincidence. There is a divine appointment happening in this moment, a convergence of heaven's timing and your hunger for breakthrough. The reason Psalm 23 has such power to stop financial lack is not because the words themselves contain magic, but because they align you with the character of God as provider, position you under his covenant care, renew your mind to think according to kingdom principles, and activate faith that opens the door for supernatural provision to flow into your natural circumstances. When you pray this psalm daily, you are not just reciting ancient poetry, You are making a legal declaration in the spiritual realm that you are a sheep under the care of the Good Shepherd, and therefore lack has no legal right to dominate your life. But here is the final key, the seal that locks this revelation into place. You must combine the prayer with obedience to divine wisdom in practical matters. The rabbis who prospered understood that spiritual practice and natural wisdom worked together. They prayed this psalm, and then they worked with excellence. They declared divine provision, and then they managed their resources with wisdom. They believed for supernatural breakthrough, and then they made strategic decisions that positioned them for opportunity. God will not do for you what He has empowered you to do for yourself, but you cannot do for yourself what only He can do. This is the dance of faith and works, of divine partnership and human responsibility. Pray the psalm daily and watch how God begins to give you ideas, open doors, arrange circumstances, and position you for favor. Then act on what He shows you, with courage and obedience. If this message has stirred something deep in your spirit, if you sense that this revelation about Psalm 23 is exactly what you needed to hear in this season, I want to offer you something that will take you even deeper. We have created a comprehensive resource called the Jewish Wisdom ebook on abundant Jewish prosperity. This ebook unpacks even more ancient secrets about biblical prosperity, Hebrew wisdom on wealth, and practical strategies that have made the Jewish people some of the most financially successful people in history. The link to access this ebook is in the description of this video, and you will also find it in the first pinned comment. I encourage you to get this resource, study it carefully, and apply its principles alongside your daily practice of Psalm 23. Together, these truths will create a complete framework for financial transformation rooted in ancient wisdom and covenant promises. Remember this: you are not called to barely get by. You are not destined for perpetual struggle. You are not meant to live in constant anxiety about provision. You are a child of the Most High God, a covenant partner with the Creator of all resources, a sheep under the care of the Good Shepherd who has pledged that you shall not want. Let that truth reshape everything about how you think about money, provision, and prosperity. Pray Psalm 23 every single day. Declare it with faith. Meditate on its truths. Let it renew your mind. Combine it with wise action and generous giving. Remain consistent even when circumstances have not yet shifted, and watch as the God who provides opens the windows of heaven and pours out blessing until there is not room enough to receive it. The Lord is your shepherd, you shall not want. This is not wishful thinking. This is covenant reality. This is your inheritance. This is the promise that stops financial lack when engaged with faith and consistency. Receive it, believe it, live it, and let your testimony become the next story that inspires someone else to trust in the God who provides abundantly for all who call upon Him. May the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who provided manna in the wilderness, water from the rock, and abundance in the promised land, open your eyes to see His provision all around you, position you in places of abundant blessing, and fill your life with the prosperity that brings glory to His name and enables you to be a blessing to others. Amen.